Hello everyone, today I'm gonna do a video on ROBLOX Nation's ideologies and their benefits. So let's start, I guess. So ROBLOX Nations, like most strategy games, gives you an option to pick ideologies. And on ROBLOX Nations, you can pick about 6 ideologies, even though it was considered at one time to add more than that. And I think it was quite a good idea, but it was never added at the moment of this video. There's only 6 ideologies. So let's start with the first one, which is what most countries have, non-aligned. This ideology doesn't really give you that many benefits. It's only good if you're trying to resist another nation, and if you're gonna be a mountain nation, for example, and you just want to annoy people and just put troops on, like for example, a fort on a mountainous area with artillery and other stuff. It can be very annoying, but that's what some people do, I guess, and it's quite effective, to be fair, against enemy troops and enemy nations. So yeah, non-aligned allows you to declare the Neutrality Act, which gives you way more justification time, but it also gives you benefits. Like for example, it makes your economy grow faster, and it also allows you to have bigger resistance on your country if a country is attacking, for example. So you can just scorch land. For example, imagine you're playing as Mexico, the United States invades you. You can just scorch land with that ideology put on, and they will take a lot of time to cross that land then, and it will also hurt our troops a lot. So to be fair, I'm done talking about non-aligned. It really doesn't have that much to talk about. It's the ideology most countries have, but other than that, it's not really that important. And yeah, which is socialism. Socialism is quite good if you want a lot of factory output early game, but you don't want to get a lot of stats that it is lost. It gives you 10% less stats than if you were non-aligned, but it also makes your factory output become a lot bigger. It's quite good if you are trying to get manpower, and also get less war exhaustion, and also have less justification time, and even better, it gives you more factory output, which it may not really cause that much of an effect if you're like a huge country that relies a lot on that, which to be fair, then I don't even think socialism is that preferable if you're that country. But if your economy depends a lot on electronic trades, and if you tend to get a lot of electronic trades early on when you play ROBLOX Nations, then I would recommend that ideology, since it allows you to get more electronics early on and sell to other nations electronics faster, because you're gonna have more. But to be fair, you can just go communism, but then you will lose on that, for example. Yeah, and also communism makes the unrest reduction go below, no, be 10% less, meaning it's one of the debuffs of going from socialism to communism, along with the tax loss. So yeah, so the next ideology is communism. So communism gives you basically way more manpower than, for example, socialism. It also gives you less war exhaustion, and if you have dramatic losses, for example, you will get like less war exhaustion. And it's also good if you're like an empire, for example, and trying to form, a country, and you're trying to form an empire, and you're trying to take a lot of nations, and to the formable you have to take them all. But then some nations you start getting independence from you, and you're out of war exhaustion. It's really bad, but you can just get communism, and it's gonna make your war exhaustion go down. But keep in mind, if you switch ideologies, no matter which one, you will lose stability. But if you switch to communism, you will lose even more. You will lose 6% stability, and if you switch to any of the ideologies below, you will lose 6%. But on the lower ones, you will only lose 3 as far as I'm aware. So yeah, but communism also has its problems. For example, you are gonna have unrest not be registered as much as it will if you are not an ideology. For example, it will be, the unrest reduction will be reduced by 10%, and you will also lose on tax. 25% to be fair. And also there's a few nations that do start with that ideology. There's Cuba and North Korea that start with that ideology basically. So for those nations, it's if you want to play communism early on, you can just pick those nations. And I think I almost forgot to mention was with communism you can get forced labor for dissidents, which gives you 50% tax increase, and it also makes your factory output become higher. And it's quite good if you're quite mad that you lost tax because of communism, you can just get 50% of it back, making it only minus 10% tax after you get the policy. So I would recommend using the policy as it also gives you resource output of 50% more, and in general it doesn't have any debuffs or any downgrades, except the thing is that you're gonna lose political power, which I mean with all policies you lose political power, and with some you even lose more than this one, for example. So yeah, it's not that bad of a policy, it's quite good even. So let's go to another ideology. We're gonna talk now about so nationalism. Nationalism gives you a few benefits. It makes your military become cheaper to maintain, and it's also quite good if you have a huge military, but you're unable to sell electronics because people already are sold to most nations. And if you don't have that many tax money, so yeah, it's quite good for that. And if you want to have a huge military, and also if you want to attack nations, since it gives you less justification time. But in general, nationalism, I don't really know why would you choose this, because it doesn't really make that much sense, as you could just choose fascism. And to be fair, I never choose nationalism or fascism. No, nationalism except in events, I think, when it was on game. So yeah. And as of now, there's no nations that start with nationalism or fascism as they are starting ideologies. So you'll have to get it by yourself, no matter what nation you're playing as. Unless someone already played as the nation you're playing as before and chooses that ideology. Fascism basically gives you similar things to nationalism. It makes your justification time become lower, and it also makes your manpower increase become higher, like in communism. It also has a military upkeep that is way less expensive to upkeep, for example, of 60%, which is really good if you want a huge military and you don't have that many money of either from that or electronics. So yeah, but you can still make electronics with that ideology, and if you don't really need the extra electronics early on, you can just do nationalism and then fascism for that. And it also gives you a minor less tax and a lot more unrest, and not really any economical benefits actually, except for the military one. You also even gain stability when you go on offensive wars compared to other ideologies such as socialism or communism, which don't offer that, or liberalism or democracy, which don't give you any benefits on offensive wars, unless you actually are liberating a country or doing a liberation war, or basically just releasing nations from a nation basically. In general, fascism allows you to have a huge military without having to pay much for it, but it's really the same as nationalism, but better in terms of military upkeep, and that's really it, I guess. But you're gonna be poor if you choose that ideology a bit, because you're not gonna have any economical benefits compared to every other ideology except nationalism. So I guess that's it for fascism. I'm gonna go and talk about liberalism now. So liberalism gives you 40% more tax. So liberalism allows you to have to have more unrest reduction, and it also makes your tax income become way higher, or 40% even, which is quite good. But to be fair, liberalism isn't really that much important, because you can also just pick democracy, and no country start with liberalism, even to some do with democracy. So liberalism is quite good if you just want to not spend basically, because it also gives you justification times that are way higher compared to other nations. but you also get you haven't get penalties if you attack another nation. You get stability hits if you do offensive wars, compared to every other ideology except democracy, which does not have that feature, I guess, or downgrade. So liberalism in general isn't really that much for ideology itself that I will pick. I will just go for democracy if I want to go to that path. And so yeah, that's it for liberalism. I'm not gonna talk about democracy now. So democracy gives you a huge percentage of increase in tax income of 110%. It also gives you a reduction of 40%, but then you have a lot of downgrades on that ideology compared to every other one, which has way less downgrades compared to that. For example, every other ideology has more things that are positive, except liberalism, than democracy, because democracy is probably one of the only ones which, along with liberalism, that gives it that many downgrades, but not that many buffs. But the upgrades it does give you are quite good, especially the tax income upgrade, since having 100% tax is quite good, since it allows you to have much tax, and it is also stakeable, since if you do research and policies that will make your tax income become higher, it will not reduce the tax income gained from democracy, meaning that we will be able to get huge numbers of tax income increase compared to every other ideology. And also your military upkeep when you pick democracy will be 25% more, and you will also get less manpower, which in general allows you to have a strong military, but a strong economy. But the problem with democracy is that it doesn't really give you much options to spend that money, except on developing even more. And by developing, you can get even more money, and then you get as much money as you can, I guess. But in general, it does not make for expansion, as with that ideology you will not be able to expand at least much, since it really affects your stability, and it also takes a long time to justify with that ideology. And the only thing that you will get out of that ideology that will be for like wars will be like liberation wars, where that will not affect you as much, considering those are liberation wars. And for liberalism and democracy, that doesn't affect them as much, I guess, compared to other wars at least. So that ideology is really just made for people that just want to not expand and just sit and develop their economy, basically. So yeah, in general, that's it for ideologies. And just to say, I think some people probably want to hear my opinion, or at least came for this video to see which ideology is the best of all. I don't really have an answer to that, since that's mostly something that depends on how you play on, or how you prefer to play on the game. So for example, I will just, for me at least, I personally use communism always, or at least go socialism and then communism. And it's because I often tend to play with electronics early on, and make my economy depend on electronics. I don't really play huge nations such as the United States or India that often, to be fair. So that's why I mostly play as communist, but I don't really know how I will play as those nations, since I don't really have that much experience of playing as those nations, except for a few times on 2020, which is a long time ago, and probably a few times ago in 2021, but that was mostly for events or such things, but not really for actual gameplay, since there wasn't really much. It's not really interesting for me. So yeah, that's it for ideologies, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, I guess so. Bye everyone. I hope you have a good day or night, and yeah.
Броня крепка, и танки наши быстрые, и наши люди мужества полны. В строю стоят советские танкисты, своей великой родине сыны. Гремя огнем, сверкая блеском стали.